Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Shop Talk, hosted by the Triangle Area SQL Server Users Group. So, Shop Talk, this is the final Shop Talk ever before Day of Data Raleigh 2026. There's going to be Shop Talk after that, pretty sure. Unless we don't have a designated survivor, because as far as I'm aware, all of the Shop Talk group will be at the same location at the same time. So that is a risk. It is a risk, but it's a risk we're willing to take. And with that, welcome in Mala. It's good to see you again.
Good evening, everyone.
In case this is your first time here, welcome to Shop Talk. This is every other Monday. We like to get together. We talk a bit about technical topics, do a little bit of discussion, answer questions, a little chat Q&A. And this is a chat-driven show. I think it's safer to stick to beer. Possibly, Anders. Possibly. But I think this is going to be a pretty good show. I say that even though I know how shallow the list of topics is, but Mala did give us one that we can riff on just a little bit. It is sort of good to see Anders. Yeah, it's not fully good to see Anders. That's a fair way to put it, Mala.
That's
Okay.
what
All right. Let's get this show on the road. Let's start by talking about the biggest news in the technical world. And now you're asking, well, what is it? What is that thing? That thing is Raleigh Day of Data 2026, the single biggest event in humanity, in the history of mankind. Not that I'm trying to overhype it or anything, but it's going to be like 45% better than Fire Festival. So, you know, you got that going for you. If you don't know what Fire Festival is, boy, you need to look that up. That was a fun time. In case you were interested in wonderful scams, there we go. All right, welcome in, Anders. Good to have you with us. So Raleigh Day of Data, I think most of us at this point kind of know what it is, but just in case, because uh, this is the last time that I can promote it on Shop Talk before the event happens. This is our annual, now once again annual event where we're going to get together a group of data platform professionals and talk topics of many levels of importance. By the way, I do want to spend just a moment and thank some of our sponsors. So Microsoft and AMD have been a sponsor for these events for a little bit, and they give a lot of money to events, which is helpful, especially in a case like ours where it helps. You can see we don't have 25 sponsors, so it's good that they're there. Now, the sponsors that we do have, Idera kicked in this year. Cozy Rock is a consistent sponsor for our Raleigh events, and we appreciate having them out there. And Kavoko is also coming in strong. So there are sponsorship plans available, but honestly, we've got enough money now. So if somebody else came in and said, "Hey, I want to give you money so that we can have a person in person there," I'd say, first of all, you probably should have done that 2 months ago. But second of all, we actually don't have any more room. We will be packed in terms of sponsors with three. It's not a very big room for sponsors, but it's a very big room for attendees, kind of. At least the number of attendees that we're looking to have. So as far as quick shop talk insider, it's just us here, just us people who certainly all are in the know. Sponsorship for or attendance, excuse me, attendance for Raleigh Day of Data 2026 is coming in right about the same as where we were with SQL Saturday Raleigh 2025. Attendance, the registration numbers is looking pretty good. I think we will beat 2025's number, but it's not going to be by a huge amount. Where I hope we're going to do better is in the percentage of people who show up. So last year we had somewhere around a 55% show rate, roughly. If we get that up a little bit, that's nice. So if you're planning on coming to Raleigh Day of Data, come on down. If you're not planning on coming, you probably should still come. I don't care if you say, "Hey, I live in a different country." That's not my problem. You find a way. You get here. Raleigh Day of Data or dayofdata.org/Raleigh. That is my extended rant. It's not even a rant. It's really unpaid advertisement. I'm doing unpaid advertisements for myself for Raleigh Day of Data 2026. And by the way, we will have missing Shop Talk host Tracy Baggiano. She will be giving a session. And also no longer missing Shop Talk host. Mala's going to give a session on vector search. Anything you want to spoil beforehand, Mala, about that topic?
I am using an interesting data set. It took me 4 or 5 different iterations before I could get to a data set that I really like for this. It's not easy to find a data set to demo it. Nothing is detailed enough, but I finally managed to find one. And coincidentally, I was also learning text analysis in school. So that really helped because text analysis is the forefather of all that we are doing today. It's evolved in many ways, but that's where it started. And I found an interesting data set, which I hope you will enjoy. I'm not giving away what it is at this point, but I had fun with it. And I wish Microsoft had taken time to remove the limitations on the on prem SQL Server version for this. That's making the indexes read only and such. But it's pretty good enough for a demo. And I hope you will enjoy the talk
Excellent.
and learn from it, because even if you don't implement it in SQL 2025, I've made it generic enough that you understand the concepts and you can use it across any other database. And most relational database SQL Server is also way behind most other relational databases. Oracle, Postgres, all of them have this vector search built in already some time ago. So I hope people will understand the concepts at least and put it to good use.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like it's going to be a pretty good session. Andrew says, "You mean I get to attend one without speaking?" So far, so far. We might just open up a room and be like, "This is conference room 2203. It's the Anders room. We're just going to lock him in here, and then you can go in and figure out if he's presenting something at the time." And it'll just be one long block that just says Anders or hallway track, except we're locking hallway track into a conference room. I won't be able to make it to Raleigh. I will make it to the Power BI DC days in June, though. Okay. I will not be able to make that one because I'll actually be in Ireland at the time, but hopefully it'll be a great event. I heard that they are doing very well in terms of registration, so looking good there. 6 hours of Anders' top hits. I'm pretty sure I saw that. I saw that on a commercial once where it's like 12 CDs for 99 cents, and it has all of Anders' greatest hits on it. So, long story short, register for that, especially if you're gonna go. Now, if you're not gonna go, I guess don't register for it. We do have a limited number of tickets. There's only so many people that we can fit in the room, and as long as nobody calls the fire marshal, we're cool. But uh, there is a limit to how many people we can have at the event. So I guess still go there. That's the moral of the story. Still go there. Next topic. So we've got a real topic. I guess Raleigh Day of Data is a real topic. It's all grown up. It's the final week where I get to talk about it before we have our aftermath episode where we talk about all the things that hopefully went well and not too many things that went horribly wrong. In fairness, the kaiju wasn't actually technically wrong. It's just we didn't anticipate the way it would respond. So, I mean, from that standpoint, it's at best like a neutral. Yeah, sure, you had giant rampaging monster destroying most of the city, but we kind of anticipated that was going to happen. We just thought we'd be able to control it better. So, that's our pre-aftermath. Yeah, aftermath does sound ominous. That is absolutely the case. First article. This one's from Alexander Arvidsson, who has been writing a lot about a variety of topics, especially related to generative AI solutions lately. And got to drop that link in right there. This one is about training. So junior data engineers and why we're training them wrong, or at least how we're training them. More how than why. I have not actually read this yet, so this is something that Mala sent. Thinking fast, slow, and artificial, and that's riffing off of a title, Thinking Fast and Slow. But cognitive surrender. So the rise of cognitive surrender, which I don't know how far down this path I want to go, but I'm gonna. I guess I will dip my toe into the water and say cognitive surrender is not a new thing. Go back to Plato. Plato in the parable of the cave. Don't listen to crazy Swedes. That's fair. That's fair. Daniel Hutmacher is the only Swedish person you should listen to, so we can ignore Alexander. But no, nonetheless, the allegory of the cave, I think it kind of applies. Nonetheless, okay. People followed a deliberately faulty AI's wrong answers 3/4 of the time, not because they're careless, but because the AI was fluent, confident, and frictionless. Basically, a consultant. The AI was a consultant. Said lots of fluffy words, dressed nicely, and had no idea what it was talking about. Just like a consultant. Okay, when the AI was wrong and participants had been given financial incentives to be accurate, plus immediate feedback after every answer, the surrender rate dropped but did not disappear. Even motivated feedback receiving people still followed wrong answers 58% of the time. I haven't read the paper, so I don't know what the financial incentives were. I got to be honest, if it's like a $5 gift card, I don't know. I don't think that's enough financial incentive to change the stakes at all. But maybe it was more. I've not read the paper. I don't know what the actual amounts were, what the actual incentive plan was, but I can still see it following people following wrong answers. This also reminds me of I may have to dig this up. There was a story about a German fellow who ended up driving into a lake, and the reason he drove into the lake was because the GPS told him to make that turn and to go into the lake. And he was swearing up and down, I it's not my fault, it's the GPS's fault. The GPS told me to do it." There is nothing new under the sun, especially when it comes to people not wanting to think. Okay. Stepping back from that abyss. So, for 10 years, I held a Microsoft certified trainer certification. Side note, I held one for 1 year. Maybe it was 2 years. It was around COVID time. And I never actually made any money from it, so I just let it lapse. I spent more money getting the MCT than ever actually earning from the MCT because
Same experience here.
none of the trainings I ever had to deliver actually required an MCT. And, you know, I guess there are some companies that require this for somebody to do their deliveries, but I've never run into one of those companies. My junior said, Copilot said today to me, yeah, yeah. I guess I suppose the evolution of my thinking with respect to language models is I still grimace when people start off, well, Copilot said, because first you're still anthropomorphizing the language model. So anthropomorphization is bad. We'll just put that on a bumper sticker. Anthropomorphization is bad, or anthropomorphization, depending on how you want to pronounce it. I think I
Don't
will.
think many people would relate to a hard word like that, Kevin. So you need a simpler term for it.
Well, that's part of the joke. That's part of the joke of the bumper sticker. Um,
Okay.
Similarly, it's on the same line as don't monetize the eschaton, where yeah, if you get the joke, you get the joke. If you don't get the joke, it's like, what are you talking about? And that's the whole point. So anthropomorphization is bad, or anthropomorphization is bad. Mispronouncing anthropomorphization is probably not quite as bad as anthropomorphizing things, but it's still pretty bad. Okay, all that said, when people do say things like that, like, "Oh, well, Claude said, Copilot said, whatever said," I don't care. What I care about is number one, is this a factual statement? Number two, is this your thought or not? If it's not your thought, that's not necessarily bad because you could say, "Hey, some rando on Stack Overflow said," or Anders said. Um, and they have different levels of how much I'm willing to believe them. We'll leave it at there where Anders is actually higher than I make it sound like at times. Um there's it's like, hey, Paul Randall said, okay. I mean, Paul Randall can still be wrong. I can be wrong. All of us can be wrong. That's okay. I'm not indicating or intimating that oh well X is automatically trustworthy because X has said it. Although all other things considered, all with priors intact, if Paul Randall says something about the SQL Server internals, I'm probably more inclined to believe him than a rando on Stack Overflow. Unless that rando on Stack Overflow happens to be like Connor Cunningham's sock puppet account or something. But that's a different story. So basically, I care less about who or what system is generating that output as I do about what is the truth value of the output. And the language model has no capacity to evaluate a truth in such a way. And I know you can talk about, well, it can do web searches, it can write code and test on the code. Yes, but there are strong limitations to that ability. It's better than I'm probably giving it credit for at the moment, and I have used it for pretty decent things, like generating out large suites of test cases to evaluate a particular item. But yeah, kind of going back to, if you say something, are you willing to own that this is your thing? This is your belief. This is your concept. And if it's not, it's okay to say, hey, I got this from Copilot. Especially if it's, hey, I got this from Copilot. I don't know whether it's accurate or not. But a lot of people will just say, oh, this came from Copilot, and then just do it automatically without thinking. And it goes back to Alexander's point. Code completion in Management Studio 22 with GitHub Copilot is pretty dang amazing, though. Yeah, I could see it being pretty good. I'd hope that it would be pretty solid based off of all of the examples that they've worked off of. So I'd hope that would be pretty nice. And I've had some good experiences with Claude Code. I've had it develop out some things. Actually, I was talking to Mala beforehand of generating. So I built a badge printer system for Raleigh Day of Data 2026. Sign up at dayofdata.org/Raleigh. Look at the way I snuck that advertisement in. You thought I was done with advertising Raleigh Day of Data. I wasn't. So put together a quick Python application that hits the Eventbrite API, that pulls in information for a specific user, and then frames up a PNG of how we want the badge printout to look, and then prints it out on my uh, thermal label printer. And so we'll print that thing out. It'll be a sticker. You'll be able to slap it right on your badge and your placard, and then boom, you're off to the races. And I did something last year with mail merge. So I downloaded the Eventbrite listings of all of the attendees, turned that into an Excel spreadsheet. I used mail merge to generate a Word document. It was all very finicky. Had to tweak it a lot to get it exactly to work. And here, this was much smoother. It was a much smoother experience. So yeah, you can get uh, very useful code at a certain level. And so I'm not gonna knock that part, especially if you do architect it out. If you are thoughtful in your questions and your decisions and your review, but that's kind of going back to what Alexander's talking about, that a lot of people aren't thoughtful. They just want to trade off. Here, you do the thinking for me, and I'll pretend that I'm thinking, type in a few words, and then take credit for the results. So, okay, let's double check. I can tell you what that training looked like because I delivered it myself. Okay, here's how you do this thing, do it. Here's how you do the next thing, do it. The how is everything, the why is a footnote. Yeah, curriculum does demand that. You kind of need to know. Here is here is the thing. Here is the task. Here is how you take a backup. Here is how you restore a backup. Here is how you take a transaction log backup. And people don't think as much about the why. I mean, that is fair. Students know how to execute. Employers got people who can follow a pattern day one. Certifications issued. Everyone felt productive. That's fair. That world is gone. I don't know. Not sure about that. We'll get further along. So less about how amazing it is, how it can be. Uh, Affordability is a big question. Yeah, yeah, big loss of cognitive effort, but these people wouldn't think about without AI. Uh,
Right.
Anders is teetering on one of my principles that I probably shouldn't announce on Shop Talk, so I'll leave it at that. But core competencies, syntax, boilerplate, structural patterns are exactly what agents handle now, and they handle them pretty well. I think that's fair. You can ask pretty much any significant sized language model, even the stuff that you can run on a normal GPU, like a 9B model or a scaled down Gemma 4 or something. you can ask it to write a statement to back up a database or to back up a series of databases.
Right.
And it's usually at least pretty close to correct, especially if you hit the Microsoft Learn MCP servers, which really is just like, here's an uh, API based way to read Learn documents. So um, that's fair. And the cognitive surrender trap, we build ourselves. Yeah. But my point being, boy, we built that thing a long time ago. Um, we built that thing several thousand years ago. I think AI could help determine the competency of people, perhaps. Maybe, but it gets challenging because you could come up with, say, if you're talking about something like a standardized exam, coming up with exam questions. Yes, with with a couple of caveats. I mean, the standardized testing is hard. Um, Determining competency is a challenge even before you think about the legal implications of it. And there are many legal implications of it. Actually, let's see, what was that? I want to see if I can find which one this was. Not interested. Griggs versus Duke Power. That was the one.
I like that term fluid IQ. I haven't heard of that before. I haven't heard of it used in that manner.
Hmm. Uh,
Have you heard of it, Kevin?
no, I have not. But most of the time, when I hear things like references on IQ, most of them end up being, well, this is really just G. This is really just IQ. It's just people trying to spin it a little bit differently. So, individual differences, predictive resistance to cognitive surrender, high trust in AI made people more vulnerable. Okay. Productive factors are more instructive. High need for cognition, the stable disposition to engage in effortful analytical thinking and actually enjoy it. Yeah, let me check what fluid IQ means in this sense. Oh, okay. There, it is G. This is exactly G. Okay. Basically, this is, you could just remove the word fluid because it's the factor of your ability to reason, to think abstractly, and to solve complex novel problems independently of prior knowledge or experience. So that is exactly what they're talking about with IQ. This is fluid is probably in there to soften the blow a little bit, but yeah, it's just IQ. Need for cognition, a desire to probe harder and not just here's the answer, but why? Why are you at that answer? Um, it is something. It is something you can cultivate, but that's a hard thing to do. And I think even then, there's a relatively small percentage of people who are ever going to get beyond the very basics in terms of that. And I'll step out on a limb and say I'm probably not one of them. Um, Grad school example, there was a guy. He's a professor now. Uh, but I remember in grad school we were talking about, it was trying to understand general equilibrium. It's trying to understand the formulas behind it and the integrations that you have to do, and uh, he was trying to figure out, well, why this, why this, why this, and at some point I'm like, I don't know why. This is the formula. This is how we do it. This is how you get the answer. And I didn't really care that much about why. I mean, I could talk about general equilibrium and my thoughts on it a different day, but this, in that case, I think that was an instructive example of why this guy's a professor and I'm doing whatever it is I do, like hosting Raleigh Day of Data coming up this Saturday. All right. So the shift, stop giving junior engineers well designed systems to implement, start giving them broken ones to diagnose. I have to think about that because the failure rate, my problem is the failure rate. So, not broken in obvious ways, subtly broken. The problem is, if it's subtly broken, I mean, you could say, "Hey, I'm trying to guide you toward a solution," but you really have to be pushing in that scenario. Uh, silently drops rows in production because of a null handling difference. Type 1 that screams for type 2, and a business user wondering why reports keep changing. The Yeah, I understand where Alexander's going with this. To find out what's wrong, articulate why it's wrong, explain what the consequences are. But this is several steps up, and if you don't have a guiding hand, that's a real challenge. It is very hard to bootstrap uh, diagnostics. Now, diagnostic mindset, that instinct that he's talking about, absolutely, 100% want to cultivate that, and that is, I would say, in interviews, this is one of the two things that I'm most trying to look for, even though I can't say it specifically. Because I can't just say, "Hey, tell me about how you perform diagnosis." I really want you to see. I want to learn, what is your process? How are you thinking about this, especially under stress, like during an interview, or when you have 4 levels of management standing over your shoulders, because the more levels of management standing over your shoulders, the more productive you become. Um and understand kind of where you go to solve a problem. How do you actually get there? So, I do like that particular, and some of it is instinct. Actually, I think a lot of it is not instinct. A lot of it is just being able to be thoughtful about process, trying to understand, here is the error, what could the causes be? How do I find the information that might help me narrow down what a cause could be? Start forming a conjecture and see if I can develop to the point of a hypothesis. So, a little bit that scientific theory that we all learn about in about 7th grade, and some of it is understanding of enough technical details to retrieve whatever information is necessary to help us form and falsify conjectures. Don't tell them what kind of wrong, just that something is off. Let them develop scanning behavior from scratch. Again, this this can be tough because I think there are a lot of paths where it can go wrong, and where someone can just go spinning off in circles for something that's not really relevant without that any kind of guiding hand. Yes, I do get, you don't want to coddle them. You don't want to babysit and like, oh, here is a problem. Here is the answer. Here is a problem. Here is the answer. So you do need to build that muscle, but I think it's a lot more challenging than he's laying it out here as.
Hmm,
Uh,
interesting.
Window function in the wrong frame boundary, it gives incorrect results, blah, blah, blah. Let them work with the output, then show them it's wrong. Then ask, what should you have checked before you trusted this? Deliberately seeding with confident wrong answers. Now they're blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we're being wrong is the point. Yeah, the easy test is to give them a week intro and go to Norway for 4 weeks. If they survive, then they'll do a lot better.
Depends on what time of the year you go, I guess.
True. Very true.
Hmm.
Let's go Norwegian winter. You have one backpack, a rifle, and a hatchet. Good luck. You might ask, well, what does this have to do with software development? It's part of our extended training program. Don't worry about it. Don't ask questions. So yeah, I'm as I'm reading this. Okay, what does this look like in practice? See, Alexander's just leaving us hanging on a limb here, waiting for post number 2, and I guess it's going to come out tomorrow. Is based off of how things are going here. So, thoughtful post. I think there are a few things that I don't believe I agree with. We'll find out in the practical implementation portion. I think there's some stuff where I would say, yeah, hypothetically, I think that's a good idea, but you know, I'm not sure about the implementation. I'm not sure that this is a plan that really works well. But I guess we'll learn more about that tomorrow. Now, this other post, this one's going to get me in so much trouble. This is also from Mala. So when I get in trouble, when they cancel Shop Talk, after Raleigh Day of Data 2026 this Saturday at Duke
Who's
Hill.
going to cancel it, Kevin? Who do you think is going to cancel?
I'm not sure yet. Maybe we should take bets. We should take bets on who gets Shop Talk shut down for my talking for when I inevitably go off the rails on this post. Twin brothers wipe 96 government databases minutes after being fired. So, these two fellows here in 2015 they pled guilty in Virginia to a scheme involving wire fraud and computers. One guy sentenced to 3 years in prison, one guy sentenced to 2 years in prison. And somehow, despite being felons, they got a job at a firm that sold software and services to 45 federal clients. Which federal clients are not vetting the people? My experience with anything involving the federal government, at least in the avenues that I have had experience with, you have to go through all kinds of like proctological exam level of vetting in order for anything to get through. And this whole bit right here is a clown show because these guys are felons. That's one of those big old tick marks that you check when you get a job somewhere is, hey, are you a felon? Especially if you have a wire fraud felony or if you have a CFAA felony and you're trying to get a job in the computer industry. That is such a big red flag that some clown show company hired these two and then put them in front of a bunch of federal clients. And then on February 1st, Brother A asked Brother B for the plaintext password of an individual who submitted a complaint to the EEOC's public portal, which was maintained by their employer. Okay, so EEOC is one of the 45 federal clients who didn't do their jobs. Conducted a database query on the database, provided the password afterwards. It was subsequently used to access that individual's email account without authorization. Also, this right here, that infuriates me. We have plain text passwords hanging around. Why? 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 Why did 45 federal clients not actually do their due diligence on firm about crap like this that is so hideously stupid that it shows up in practically every checklist about a vendor? Hey, do you keep plain text passwords around? And did vendor lie? Did vendor lie and say, no, we don't? And then they keep plain text passwords around? Because if so, I want vendor to burn as well. Like these guys, I want them in Club Fed for decades. I want them under a rock somewhere. Now the company, I want them gone. I want them dissolved. I want them sued into oblivion. I want them destroyed because this is just outright stupid. This was not a one off. Munib here had been assembling usernames and passwords, 5,400 of them taken from his own company's network data. Who at the company is letting this happen? Do you not have a security team? Do you not have any sort of diligence process for the two felons that you hired? He then built custom Python scripts. My money's on using Claude Code to try these logins against common websites. For instance, his Marriott Checker.py application tested him against Marriott hotel chains. So sometimes if victims had airline miles stored, Munib would book travel for himself. Again, I want this I don't even want him under a rock. I want him just shot into the ocean. Uh, I want him dropped from a helicopter on a dark night somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic. The brothers' employer seemed to have learned about their criminal past at some point in February. Okay, so your company is so stupid that you didn't do any kind of background check on the literal felons? Like this is yeah, I really am trying to get the show shut down. I am on tilt about this article because I read through it this weekend and then as we're on Shop Talk now, I'm reading through it carefully. I'm like, I'm getting angrier. This is making me angrier and angrier because I know all the crap that I have had to go through and that my employers have had to go through for federal clients. And for this company to just skirt by, hire some felons, some computer fraud violators, and just like, oh, sorry, whoops, our fault. I want them gone. I like the whole group, this whole group. I don't know what kind of software they provide. It's not necessary. Destroy it. Get rid of them all. And probably I'm at the point where I'm like, just get rid of those 45 federal clients because apparently they're too stupid to exist either. So I am 100% on tilt. So the company learned about their criminal past at some point in February because they didn't do a basic background check. Or the brothers also probably lied on their forms when they said, "Are you a felon?" No. You're supposed to do a background check, and then felonies are very, very easy to get information on. Those are public record. So unless they somehow got them sealed, um, which would be a challenge considering that they spent actual time in prison and it wasn't too long ago. That's something. So the two brothers in 2025 were called into a Teams meeting and summarily fired. Okay, 5 minutes later, Sohail was already trying to access his employer's network. Also a crime. Found his VPN access and Windows account were terminated. Munib's account had been overlooked. Retarded company. Like, seriously, that company should not exist. It deserves to go under. He embarked on a campaign of destruction. So many felonies. Um, Access a government databases company maintained. Issue commands to prevent other users from connecting or making changes. Deleted databases. DHS, prod DB. I stand by. Hey, look, 45 federal clients, you're gone. This is good enough. Like, we don't need you. I don't. If this is Department of Homeland Security, we don't need you. You're gone. You failed. You failed the city. He asked an AI tool, how do I clear system logs from SQL servers after deleting databases? By the way, this is information that is very easy to collect from places like Google, from places like OpenAI. This is in fact what records requests exactly and explicitly look for is these sorts of things because that query right there can be used against you in a court case. That is evidence. If you are asking, how do I dissolve a body? Pro tip. Pro tip. If you're going to ask a question like, how do I dissolve a body? Make sure that you do it years in advance. You need to prep for this stuff. You need to do it years in advance on a public connection somewhere farther away, and you need to collect that information. You don't want to do it after the fact. How do I dispose of a body? If you don't know how to dispose of a body, you shouldn't be in this place to begin with. That is another one of my firm stances. If you don't know how to dispose of a body, you shouldn't be getting rid of bodies. Um, I mean, also you probably shouldn't be killing people to begin with, but you definitely shouldn't be killing them if you don't know how to deal with the consequences or look at a book in the library. Exactly. You find the right book, you find the right library, you find the right book. Kids these days, they don't even know. They don't even like, oh, hey, I'm just going to type in my phone, how do I get rid of my ex-wife? You don't do that. You don't do that. You have a plan. All right. Shop talk. Official stance. You have a plan. Um okay, joking aside, except for the bit about, don't kill anybody in general. General principle, don't kill people. Specific cases, we can talk about those offline. But HR is the end of civilization. You know what? I agree. Just at that beginning right there, you've got me sold. Um we hired two employees. They were AI engineers who had their identity stolen. We sent equipment to North Korea and Pakistan. The only reason we found out is the CDW Depot guy said, "Wait, what?" Ooh, that is a horrible story, Enhanced QC, and um, actually reminds me of a security company. You know, what? Security company hired North Korean. This was Know Before, yeah. So we actually do use Know Before, um, or I have used Know Before in companies, and let me see. Yep. Okay. So this is a BBC article on the topic, but Know Before is a security company. They literally provide content on how to do cybersecurity training. They ended up accidentally hiring a North Korean as a remote IT worker. Uh, Faked the person, and the fake worker used AI to alter an existing stock image. So, um, cyber researchers at Mandiant uncovered the fake worker profile. Basically, fake person uh, tied in with North Korea, used some AI to make a fake image, took stock photo, turned into total real person photo. And Know Before had a nice article. They covered it in some detail about here's the specific thing that they did. Here were all the things that this person did. Here's how they were trying to get through. Here's the why. Here's the what. And they ended up stopping him before um he actually got anything anywhere. Have you seen the compilation videos where they screen potential employees by asking a candidate to say Kim Jong Un is a fat pig? They won't or can't do it. I haven't seen that, but yeah, I mean that's a that may be a play. That might be a play. Um, but yeah, essentially they found this was happening and had a big write up on it. It was actually kind of interesting information knowing that, this is a company that prides itself on teaching people how to do the right things, and they still got hit with this. And you might ask, "Hey, why would they be sending this to, like, what's the point? Why is North Koreans trying to get fake jobs this way?" And my understanding is that one of the big reasons is so that they can get hard currency in the country. So they'll have fake jobs. First, you can get access to networks. So you might be able to exploit networks, exploit vulnerabilities that are on corporate networks, and then use that to infiltrate and get information for espionage purposes. But yeah, even if not, even if all they're doing is taking the laptop and either working, actual working, or pretending to work, it's so that hard currency can flow in. And there are people in various countries. In this case, know before they actually were wiring to a bank account in the U.S. And this person who owned the bank account was essentially getting paid a token amount of money to then forward the rest of the money on. So it'd be like, hey, you keep 10% and then you forward 90% over to this account. And they didn't know or ask questions, and apparently didn't realize that's also a felony. So, neat story. Lots of felonies. I guess today's Shop Talk storyline, the through line is everybody committing felonies, except for those of you who go to Raleigh Day of Data this Saturday, dayofdata.org/Raleigh. That's probably my last advertisement. I just had to do that one. I had to spin up on that one. But okay, let's see. How do you clear all event and application logs from Microsoft Windows Server 2012? All right. Hang on. Working a lot with FinCEN rules. There are many ways to become a felon. Oh yeah, absolutely. There is a book. There's a book. It's a little bit old at this point, but I believe the answer was that just by living through your average day, you are probably technically committing about 2 to 3 felonies. So we got that going for us. We are all unindicted felons. But where I'm pausing, Windows Server 2012. You're running Windows Server 2012. Do you not realize how old Windows Server 2012? Do you not realize how out of date Windows Server 2012 is? That they don't get patches anymore. They don't get updates anymore. This is so old. I I'm going back on my limb. I am on that limb saying every party involved in this article needs to be summarily shot into the sun. Deleted 96 databases with U.S. government information, downloaded 1,800 files belonging to the EEOC, stashed them on a USB drive, grabbed federal tax information for at least 450 people. How is he? We have almost a dozen Windows 2003 production servers. I'm I'm sighing exasperatedly multiple times on your behalf, Enhanced QC. I can understand that there are reasons why that may need to be the case. It's still dumb. Okay, while this was going on, the brothers held a running conversation. Actually, this parenthetical statement says not clear whether it took place over text, instant message, or in person. My understanding was The information, they were able to get it because they left the Teams call running.
Right.
So they were still chatting on that Teams call that was recorded. I see you cleaning out their database backups. All right, if you have good plausible deniability, they can recover from yesterday. Okay, so this is, by the way, what, 96? This right here will be 96 breaches of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. The 1,805 downloads. I'm not actually sure how many counts that would be, but that's quite a few. And then, but getting federal tax information, where are you connected to that you're able to get federal tax information for these 450 people? And if the IRS is one of those 45 clients, straight into the sun, all of them, just straight to the moon, Alice. Okay, an employee they knew would have some work to do. Delete their file system, smart idea. You should have had a kill script, like blackmailing for some money. That's proof of guilt. Th- these guys are retarded. These guys legitimately retarded. Um, you always have your opinion, and the two bickered about whether they might try to blackmail their company's customers instead. Probably pulled into the EEOC system during investigations. That might be. You could be correct on that, Anders. It could be, but I would like the IRS to be involved just so that we can fire them into the sun as well. That's so even if they're not involved, I'm going to find a way to bring them in just so that they can be on that list of just everything goes, everything burns down. After wiping event data out databases and event logs. So hey, congratulations, your Google search or AI search succeeded. So congratulations, buddy. They reinstalled the operating systems on their corporate laptops with the help of an unnamed co-conspirator. So they got one of the admins to let them to rebuild that machine. All right. 3 weeks later, feds raided them. Search warrant executed at the house. Grabbed plenty of tech gear, 7 firearms. These guys are felons. 30 caliber ammunition. Okay, 370 rounds isn't very much. 30 caliber ammunition. Now, if you're talking rifle, 30-06, okay, that's you probably have like a bolt action or something. Given his former crimes, so Have should have had none of this. Yeah, they're felons. Uh, they have just now they have ATF getting them for, hey, 10 plus years, because guess what? If you bought these things after you came out of your fun time in the jail cell, uh, you just broke another law 7 separate times, and each one of those is worth 10 years in prison. Again, to the sun. Not even dropping them into the Atlantic. We are firing them into the sun. They remained free for another 9 months, but they were eventually arrested on December 3rd and indicted on a host of crimes. Ooh, we can read how many crimes. How many crimes? They only have 13 counts. So let's see. Let's see what they have. Let me drop this in. What did they get them on? Conspiracy. Okay. Intentional damage to protect a computer without authorization. Okay. Um. All right. This looks like. Let me check. Computer CFA 18 USC. Let's see. Yep, 18 USC 1030. So every time you see 18 USC 1030, that is the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. So they're getting them on 1 count, 2 counts of that, 3 counts for password trafficking. Looks like they got 3 counts of Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Theft of U.S. government records, possession of firearms by a prohibited person. So that's different from the one that I was thinking of. Not sure I want to know why he knows that off the top of his head. I didn't actually know it off the top of my head, but I kind of assumed Section 1030 was going to be CFAA. So I had to do a quick search, which is why you probably heard my clacking typing. But again, you do these searches years in advance. You got to know this stuff in advance, Anders. You got to have a plan first. It's not just words. Okay. Kind of interesting. Possession of 15 or more unauthorized access devices, witness tampering. So neat stuff. 23 pages in the indictment if you want to learn a little bit more about these two clown shows and all of the stupid things that they did. You got that. Munib signed a plea deal admitting to the major allegations. Sohaib took his case to trial. He lost because he's dumb. He'll be sentenced this September. Munib also needs, again, they both need to be shot into the sun. A crime of passion, so not premeditated at least. I mean, that is premeditated. Um, some of them, the fact that he was previously using the information to book travel for himself, he's been doing this for a while. This, yeah, the some of them might sound like crime of passion, but like this one right here, this is showing no, this is a guy who's been doing criminal activity for a while. And by the way, they were both in prison. They were both involved in wire fraud. So these guys are, well, the deleting of databases. Yeah, that particular part, I agree. That sounds like, oh, I'm just angry, I'm going to go do it, which is dumb. Don't do things in anger. Um, Munib began filing handwritten petitions from jail, arguing that his lawyer has been ineffective. It's because the client was retarded. Lawyers can only do so much when you're an idiot. Enhancement objectives. Okay, so he's got some jailhouse lawyer stuff going on. You need to be calm and collected when committing crimes. Exactly. Exactly. Uh, I am uncomfortable with my plea. Yeah, you shouldn't have pled guilty. You should have been found guilty so that you could get the full punishment. But still, I stand with my brother and his innocence. I like that parenthetical. That parenthetical is pretty decent. That's a pretty good one from the author. True story? Question mark. Friend or colleague from mine worked at an airport that will remain unnamed. Caught a foreign national help desk green card, dumping everything he had access to on Google Drive. Help desk guy somehow had a domain admin account. DHS came in and arrested. Hopefully, wow, trying to dump everything he had access to. Yeah, that I could see that happening. Somebody saying, "Oh, I could get some good money for this. I'm about to be fired anyhow, or whatever." It's wild. It's wild. Proceeding with Munib functioning as his own lawyer. The joke, the joke that a person who is his own lawyer has an idiot for a client. That is not a joke. This works maybe like 1/100th of 1% of the time. 99.99% of the time, this fails miserably, especially when you get past. We could talk about traffic court. We could talk about, trying to argue down a $75 parking ticket. That's a different story. When you start talking about federal prison, you don't act as your own lawyer. I don't care if you are Johnny Cochran. Johnny Cochran does not act as Johnny Cochran's lawyer if Johnny Cochran were in a criminal case as a defendant. Johnny Cochran would go hire a whole bunch of very fancy people like Johnny Cochran because those lawyers, they have the ability to kind of separate. They have the ability to pull out from some of the idiotic ideas that swirl around in a defendant's head. And if you are a lawyer, probably also realize that this is generally a good idea. Um, I very rarely hear of cases where people act pro se and actually succeed. Seeing as I once upon a time wrote background check software, I think people at least used to think they would find way more than they do. I agree. Although my background check picked up my criminal record. My criminal record is that the state of Ohio caught me driving 13 miles an hour over the speed limit. Um, and that was marked in my criminal record. So I unfortunately have a criminal record. That was the one I didn't get away with. All the rest of it, like what was in my trunk, don't ask questions. But probably just my luggage. It was for a sequel Saturday. So yeah, that popped up in my background check. Thank God Texas never recorded my speeding tickets. Yeah. I'm actually a little surprised Ohio did, but I guess I was 13 over. I was driving North Carolina speeds. I had forgotten that Ohio does not follow North Carolina speeds. Where North Carolina speeds, if it's a 65 and you're not doing like 78, then the cops are lapping you. Ohio, 72 above that, they got you. Speeding tickets, not surprised because the insurance industry paid for the system to collect that nationwide. Okay, fair enough. Had one speeding ticket. They asked for a copy 15 years later when I was interviewing for citizenship. Yeah, I just frame it on my wall. Like, what?
Thankfully, I had a copy. It was faded because it was handwritten and almost gone, but I
Uh,
was able to produce it and it helped me. But
yep. So the company that employed the brothers is Opexis, which sadly their website their website is still up, which means that the company still exists. That company needs to go away. That company needs to burn down every last part of that. Like they need to go into bankruptcy. They need to be completely dissolved. All the people involved with it need to just go away. Though Opexis did background checks, the company admitted that, quote, additional diligence should have been applied. Yeah, way to use passive voice to get around the fact that you screwed the pooch really hard by hiring felons, computer felons, to do computer jobs while they were still acting as felons on the clock, and you didn't pay attention to any of it until they literally got arrested. The terminations were not handled in an appropriate manner. Way to passive voice your way through that one as well. Your PR person needs some assistance. The individuals responsible for hiring the twins are no longer employed by Opexis. Oh, okay. So that's wonderful. What about the people who hired those idiots? Lowest bidder. Yeah. Um, I finally learned how the government. Okay, so yeah, this is where this is where you found it out. Okay, Teams recorded the Teams call, forgot to shut it off. So speaking of shutting off calls, this is the last episode of Shop Talk. We'll find out if we're back after Raleigh Day of Data this Saturday. But hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you work for a better company than Opexis, which can go rot for all I care. And hopefully, those guys enjoy their years in prison. And with that, we're going to wind things down for tonight. So tomorrow we have David Cleet talking to us about being a consultant and ideally not committing a bunch of felonies. I don't know if that's actually part of his talk, but maybe I could brief him on this. And then from there, like I said, this Saturday is Raleigh Day of Data. So come on down, dayofdata.org/Raleigh. Next week on Tuesday, we have our data science, business intelligence, artificial intelligence. John Miner is going to talk to us about DBT, the data build tool. And that'll wrap us up for May. Yeah, because we'll have Memorial Day upcoming Monday, and then we'll get into June for the next episode of Shop Talk. So until we do see each other at a future episode of Shop Talk, at a future TriPass meeting, or maybe this weekend at Raleigh Day of Data, everybody take care.